Welcome to Blue Collar Mystics, the under-the-hood approach to the depths of human consciousness. So many mysteries, so little time, so many big words. That's why we aim to take the mystical and make it practical, usable in your everyday life. And you know, we want to hear from you. We want to hear your story. What happened when you started asking yourself the real questions? Like, who am I? What is this? Is it a hologram? Is this some kind of weird cosmic joke? Hey, these are the questions that we are trying to get to the bottom of as we explore the final rabbit hole together here as Blue Collar Mystics. What's up, everybody? Welcome. We are live on YouTube and Rockfin, and I guess on Facebook on the Blue Collar Mystics page. I can't go live in the group anymore. I don't know. We might start trying Instagram next week.
Ooh, that'll be fun.
Yeah, I think we'll switch it up, maybe try something different. Thanks for hanging out, everybody. Welcome to it. We are covering the reality transurfing book by Vadim Zealand, a chapter at a time. And tonight we're going to be talking about one of the sort of more, I would say, like less formal, more casual, cordial sort of chapters in which he kind of takes some questions and answers those questions. And then also we're happy to, hear from you, your thoughts, insights, questions, and answers from you, and kind of engage a little bit. Have some fun, chop it up, as they say, Abby and I. Thanks so much for being here. We really appreciate y'all. Abby, how are you tonight?
I am fantastic. How about you?
I'm doing well. I can't complain. I've been very busy. I want to say thank you to everybody who has ever subscribed to this channel or watched a video. I just found out over the weekend that I have had 350,000 views on the channel, which is pretty cool.
Period. That's awesome.
Yeah, I was like, wow, that's a lot of people to be able to reach. So I'm really grateful that y'all have had to, or we've had the opportunity to encounter more people. My life would not be what it is now if I hadn't started doing this. And it's been an interesting ride. Like, I've certainly had some ups and downs with it, and have learned a lot. But my God, am I glad that I started making YouTube videos and connecting with people. You are someone that I don't think I would ever known had I not done it. So
how would we ever have met, right?
I don't know. I mean, maybe you could make the case it would have been inevitable anyway, and I think that's cool. But I think we also, as we talk about transurfing and the way that things unfold, we have to take those steps to the mailbox. And for me, this was one of them. I was scared to death, honestly, to put myself out there, to put anything out there. God forbid I should ever try to help someone else out with a video, but at the same time, I had this maybe it's insecurity, maybe complex at the time, or even just something that's very common, just to be nervous. Like, who am I to tell somebody?
Yeah,
something?
It's the imposter syndrome. We all have it.
Yeah.
I mean, even when, like, it was one thing to come on to podcasts and stuff, and even then I had imposter syndrome. But then, like, going on to Weaving Spiders, I still had it. And when Cheney asked me to do Secret Society of Good Guys, I was like, me? And I don't know. Eventually, you just become the thing, though.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still the same person. You know, I sometimes feel a little self-conscious, you know, people in my area see the podcast or see me talking about, you know, reality transurfing on YouTube, and you hear the words reality transurfing and you're like, what is this going to be? You know,
Yeah.
there's no telling.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, I started another channel that's just reality transurfing content, because, you know, I'm going to start putting out maybe a little more comedy and stuff and just other things on the channel that's not specifically, and there are already other things that are specifically that, but I know this is the thing that really people connect with and with me. So I wanted to do that. So I made another channel. And I don't think I put that link in the show notes here, but I'll stick it in the live chat and stick it in there later. But if you guys want to subscribe to that, that'd be great. I'd really appreciate it. Thanks for being a subscriber here. Let's see. It looks like we already got some questions coming up, and I want to hear more about this. I think, did you send me, Cody, did you maybe send me a message on Instagram? Are you the same one who sent me a message? Because I thought that was the coolest message, and I talked to Abby about it, but yeah, just let me know if that was you. I'd love to hear from you. He says, hey all, Bootsy, I saw your transaction exercise video a few days ago and experienced something that I think was quite miraculous as a result.
I really want to hear about it.
Fuck yeah, right?
Yeah.
That's amazing. And
I'm telling you, it works.
Well, you know, I tried it a couple times this week. That was our homework from last week, if you guys caught that episode. And you know, to try the transaction exercise. I tried it a couple of times just walking around. I didn't notice anything myself personally. But then again, what does he say? You could actually not perceive much of a difference because you're already on your trajectory, or whatever, or
Yeah.
who even knows, right? Like, it says, okay, so this is a different guy. Wasn't him on Instagram. I have more to tell. Give me a few minutes. All right, Cody. Well, thank you so much for sharing, and I can't wait to hear what you're going to type. And if people want to hop in, since we're doing this live, you can hop in. I can put a link in the chat or DM it if you want to hop on and talk. I'm cool with that. And
yeah, that'd be awesome.
You know, just don't do anything that's going to get me shadow banned again. You know, we get a bunch of people talking about war and shit. I know
we're hydras. You just got to do it like that's what Cheney said, because we're shadow banned on Project Cheney right now. So we're like, not even shadow banned. We got to strike. So.
Yeah, I've had a couple of those myself
for 2 weeks. So we she's just like, every time they do that, I'm gonna start a couple new channels and just watch. Like,
well, it's
we'll
tough.
break the system.
It's tough. I think, you know, we always got to find a workaround. The thing about it is, and I think transurfing has really helped me understand this, it's like, you can't use the tool that you're kind of fighting against to fight against itself. You know what I mean? It's like writing on a pencil that you're using. So you have to find ways to kind of work around. And I've certainly made some mistakes on YouTube, and probably had some guests say some stuff that probably also flagged the algorithm a few times. And
what's so weird is that some of this stuff is like mainstream now. So it seems like it's okay to talk about it because they're putting out all the reports on words that we're not allowed to say and showing the science. But now, like, it's still enough to get you banned for 2 weeks.
And you never know what they're going to change next week. And then retroactively, all the stuff that you talked about, you know, back in there, and they can just ban that. So, you know, I think it's just a matter of just having some discretion and being a little bit wise with what platform you're using. And I know a lot of people are on Rumble and stuff. I think that's cool. I'm pretty sure this goes to Rumble too, and I haven't checked over there to see. I don't know the platform well. It's a lot of work to just work on one platform, much less you know, all these other ones. But no, you know, if people want to hop in here, as long as you don't, you know, start screaming slurs. I've had that happen. I had that happen one time where somebody they like put out a link and somebody came in and just started screaming on the live stream. But no, if people want to engage, or they want to hop in here, obviously you can use the live chat and just chat in some stuff. Totally fine. But I'm totally also down to have somebody, if you're interested, to hop in and chat with us. You can just use your smartphone And that's totally cool. If you're obviously cool with it, whatever is fine. I just think it's fun. Keeps things spontaneous, and I like that.
So I did the transaction. I wasn't walking. I was sitting though in a familiar area outside, and I did the whole looking down thing. Then when I looked up, like this house that's like, I can just see through the backyard. It's quite a ways down, but it had 2 American flags where there. I mean, I don't remember an American flag there, but there was 2 American flags like side by side, which is so weird. Nobody ever puts up 2 American flags. Like it'll be an American flag or a Trump flag or American flag and a Oklahoma flag, but it was like
Right.
So it was different.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, that seems a little glitchy right there. A double stars and stripes,
I've never seen that before.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, I've definitely seen different changes and definitely changes in scenery, hues, and there's a lot of different ways to think about it. I wonder too, just because it comes a lot down to our own experience anyway, what those influences may be, just like richer and brighter, and also more drab I've experienced, frankly. And I think most of us have, like, our experience is colored with shades, and it's really cool to be able to look up and see something different. This particular chapter was pretty insightful to me this time too, it being a Q&A, because he's going back through a lot of the stuff and repeating it. And there were a couple of things specifically toward the end of the chapter, the reality inversion exercise.
Yeah. I don't remember that from before, which is so wild. Like how maybe I've glossed over this chapter a couple times. Like I know the first couple things I've heard a few times, but I heard it with new ears today, I guess. So
yeah, I kind of did too, enough to want to listen to it again. And I love the summary of this chapter because it's just a single sentence.
I was like, what?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, the summary of this chapter is, if you do not control reality, reality will control you. That's it. That's it, dude. And then mic drop after that. You have to, yeah.
Looks
so
like Cody's got his story in the chat.
It does. So let's go through this here. Let's have some fun, shall we? So Cody says, so kind of a funny story, but here it goes. I'm a hockey fan, was watching Canucks versus Predators game 4. I'm a Canucks fan, so I wanted them to win. They were down by 2 goals with 2 minutes left. I decided I wanted to be in the timeline where my team won, so I did the exercise. I saw Brock Bozier celebrating, and I heard the silence in the home crowd signaling their disappointment. Sorry if I mispronounced that name. I'm not French nor a hockey fan. I was surprisingly confident that the events were going to unfold, and they did. It was a historic comeback. Should not have happened. Brock, however, Bozer, I'm hoping I'm saying that right, scored both goals, and needed to tie it. The sights and sounds at the end of the game were almost exactly how I pictured them. It was crazy to experience. Wow. Pretty cool.
Look at you affecting your timeline.
Hey, as a UGA,
you're on the timeline where your team wins. The
That's
team
right.
wins like a historic comeback.
As a Georgia fan, I can kind of relate. A Georgia football fan. My whole life, dude, we were always mediocre, and then we won it in 2020 and 2021. They lost last year, but three-peat hadn't happened in a while. But I mean, Georgia's going to be good for some time.
Reality transurfing helped me give up being a sports fan. I used to watch like San Diego Chargers. They were my football team. Loved to watch them. Like they were such a good team, really. But they were like, I think if there was a stat for the most injuries on a team, it would be them. Like they're cursed for real. But there isn't, nobody keeps that stat. That's the weirdest thing. But then also like they have like some of the worst fourth quarter losses. Like they'll win the whole entire game and then lose in the last 2 minutes. And so I realized how much of a loosh it was. It's like such a pendulum just taking my energy. So I was like, you know what? I'm done with this.
It's
So
the best example of a pendulum that exists, really.
yeah.
Like organized religion's pretty good. Also, so are politics, you know,
Oh yeah.
any weird group, but it's the least like sort of offensive, because like if somebody's really polarized and attached to like their political party or, you know, ideology or religion, God knows it's impossible to talk to them about a pendulum. But usually and I don't know, there are some people who are rabid fans too, but you start telling them about a football game or, you know, some sort of a sporting event or something like that where there's a lot of energy going around, and, you know, it's a little bit less scary or not scary, but threatening, I guess, to your paradigm.
It depends. You know, I'm in Oklahoma, so it's like everyone is like, "Are you an OSU fan or OU?" And I'm like, "I don't give a shit about either one."
Yeah. How dare you try to binary me in a fucking
Yeah. I didn't
but
graduate from either one of those universities, so
oh, and I love this too. He says, important to keep in mind, it's just a game. Okay. This is huge because this is
yeah.
really a lot. The crux of the fucking whole chapter right here is, you know, people are writing into him with all their problems. This thing happened. This terrible thing happened to me. And the first guy is like, well, I just knew it was too good to be true and something terrible would have to happen. And then he's asking him why it did. And he's like, but dude, you just wrote that you knew something terrible was going to happen. And then it did. Like what?
Yeah.
And then later,
She's like, "These are the best times of my life. I knew they couldn't last." Like,
yeah. What?
reality's
No.
a mirror. If it's a
Exactly.
mirror, then that's exactly what you're gonna get, buddy.
You constructed that yourself.
Yeah.
You built that whole thing. It's crazy. It's crazy. And then later, he is talking a lot about basically shifting our awareness from participant to observer, that it's a game. And anything that we're engaged in, I try to remember when I can remember this and I'm not swept up in pendulums. It makes my day go by so much better, right? Like it's a fun game to organize, you know, the things that I've got to take care of during the day, to take this phone call, to, you know, to sell this service or whatever it is, right? Like it's a game. If we take it less seriously and shift our awareness from participant where everything's happening to us and we feel at the effect and not at the cause, to the person who's playing the game, you can step outside, see the game, then it makes such a huge shift, such a massive difference. And it's that leverage and attitude and perspective and perception makes an emotional difference throughout the course of the day.
If anybody's a Carlos Castaneda fan, this is really what he's talking about, is the art of stalking. And the stalking is, he says all the time, you should stalk yourself, which means you're really pretending to be yourself in the role while you're so you are. It's a game. You're the actor who's coming alive on stage. You're the puppet that cut its strings. So you are an observer. You're paying attention to what's going on around you while you are pretending to be you almost. And there's such a power in that. It's pulling back your awareness. You're not reacting, you're acting.
Yeah. For so long in my life, I've just been at the behest of, you know, the emotional impulse.
And how easy is it to do it still? Like, even with the knowledge, it's just like, you know, I don't know, maybe it's tough to you, but he's everything. He's like, you know, you get pissed off, wake up. You know, if you start feeling any kind of way, like, wake up. Just, where's your attention? Like, pay attention. Remember that you're an actor on a stage. Everybody else might be asleep, but you don't have to be asleep. And when you're awake, then the outcome's usually in your favor.
Remember that this is a dream. Row, row, row your boat. Yeah. Wake up. Remember, it's hard. It's hard to remember. It is so easy to get swept up, but man, does it make a difference. It makes such a difference. It could be gloomy and kind of, you could be holding on to the, what is it? The existential sort of melancholy, you know, as I do sometimes, just roam around my house in my magic
Mood.
robe, like I just brewed, or whatever. But whatever that is, you can play that game. And I started talking a little bit about reality inversion. And really what that is it's just taking it to the extreme, whatever that is. You just push it so far that it's absurd. It's basically comedy, or you could do it the other way too, where it's so tragic that it's comedy. And you just push that thing to the point of outrageous and absurd. And then it doesn't have any power anymore.
That's I don't know if anybody has seen, or have you seen the movie Midsummer?
I haven't seen it yet.
It's good, and a lot of people would probably think it's really twisted, but I think that there's really a lot of beauty to some of the things that they do in it. It's they're on spring break and they're going to this guy's colony, pretty much. Like they're cultish, very cultish, visiting his family because they're all anthropology students. And one thing that they do is that when people are feeling like extreme emotion, like screaming and stuff like that, like horrifying, then everyone starts screaming and acts horrified. And it's like weird at first. You're like, what the fuck are these people doing? But they're transmuting it. They're like shifting the energy. And then like they do it all throughout it. Like this they're having like a ritual with sex, and while she's having sex, like all the women are around and they're moaning. They're all like, I don't know. It's so weird. So you think it's like so super cultish and weird, but at the end, this girl's feeling grief and she's just like screaming and crying her grief, and everyone's doing it with her. And then all of a sudden, she's like, after like it helps her get it out, and then they're all like, then she's smiling. And it's like the most bizarre thing. But he talks about how they did this when he was in college, because Vadim was a physics student. So him and his friends like started playing with these ideas and these concepts. And so they started inverting things. He talks about how one girl was in mourning, like she was just super depressed. And so she was even wearing black. And so everybody knew she was in mourning, and everybody was asking her, are you okay? And all that. But he said that the inversions work so much better when you have a group of friends that'll participate. So then they sat around her and they just started singing her sad songs, and like all of these people all around her just singing her these sad songs. And then she starts crying, and as she's crying and wailing, then they start crying and wailing, and then they all end up laughing. And it's like,
yeah. And they were like, when are you going to commit suicide?
Yeah. They're asking her when she's going to kill herself. And it just like, they brought it to the point of absurdity, and then it just flipped the switch.
I do that sometimes when I'm having a tough day. I'm like, well, that's fine. I'm just going to quit. Right. Like, because that notion itself is so absurd, right? Like that I could quit. It just it winds up
like when you laugh at yourself because you acted like a child.
Yeah. Cause like, I'm just going to quit, I'll quit. We'll just quit. Just never. Yeah. Just going to go to bed. That's it. Throw it in the towel. I'm done. Never doing this again. And,
okay. So, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was going to change the subject completely.
Well, thanks for that.
Finished. Well, I just had a thought.
No, go for your thought. No. I'm
okay.
good.
So I did the whole transaction thing, and I saw the 2 flags. So I knew it worked. And then the next day, like I had seen, okay. Normally, if I see a bee or like a hornet or something in my house or in my office, I'll like put on a fly swatter and get it out of my house. But I saw this one and it was in my kitchen. It was under the blinds, and I did not want to mess with it. So I was just like, I'll leave it. It might sting someone. The next morning, I wake up and I'm not the nicest person in the morning. Like I'm not unpleasant. I just, I wake up kind of slow.
Same.
But I'm washing dishes and everything, and I've got the dishwasher open and my foot's kind of under it, and I get stung by someone. I was like, oh, and I look down and it's that bee. I was like, motherfucker. So I start cussing and everything, and I run to the bathroom, and I want to put my foot in the bathtub in the cold water. But then, if you take wet soap and you lather it on a bee sting, it takes the pain out of it. So I was going to do that, but I turn on the bathtub, and of course the shower is on. So I freaking doused myself with water. I was like, oh,
classic.
I see what's happening. Like, this is an induced transition. It's trying to freaking take me on a downward spiral. And so I had to force myself, even though my foot was hurting and my head was wet and everything, I like just forced myself to laugh about it. So it stopped there. But I mean, I've had it where it just keeps escalating before. But I mean, I noticed it. Luckily, after the shower hit me, I knew what was happening. But I feel like it's that trying to balance because I shifted timeline. So it's like, let's see if we can take her back down.
After you saw that, that's really cool. That is really cool. And just holding that. Yeah, that's awesome.
Figured I'd share.
No, that's a great anecdote. I love that. Yeah. You know, this is one of those things where it's like, I didn't even know when I was younger how coming unraveled completely, how terrible that actually was. Like how badly that really actually is. But I want to say this too. It's like he's talking about at the end of the chapter. You can always flip it. Like it's always flippable. And just because you had a certain attitude about something or you were down or whatever about it in the past, that doesn't matter. You can flip that right now. You can twist it, tweak it right now, do the reality inversion right now. You can do the transaction and get right back where you were at right now. And then just continue to remember as you're moving forward throughout each day. You know, you can have bad days and you can forget. And you have to allow yourself. In that last chapter that we talked about, he talks about that. Allow yourself to make a mistake. Allow yourself to fuck up once in a while. Who cares? It's fine. And it's really easily fixable. You just shift right onto the next timeline. You know, like this idea of fear, I think, is what plagues us. He defines fear so well in here too. By the way that he explains it. You know, obviously we know we should feel the fear, do it anyway. And often fear gets in our way. It keeps us from actually doing the thing. He describes it as an excess potential that creates anxiety in us by thinking about the object, basically, whatever that object is. And feeling the fear is totally fine. Being nervous is totally fine. Like feeling all of those emotions and even making mistakes is completely fine because it's going to make you learn how to control those impulses and be more present and remember in the moment more and more and more. You'll start to just gradually improve. And then the more that you improve, the better your circumstances will get. The better your circumstances will get, the more your disposition will get. You know, and yes, 100% pendulums are coming. The shower is going to be on when you turn on the faucet to try to knock you back down. But back to that inversion thing and celebrating, you know, you can celebrate a negative thing. He's talking about his test that he got a F on also in that same.
Yeah. That whole story is great.
Yeah. He failed his test and he was like, yes, I failed. You guys got C's. You're lame. You did terrible. And then wound up retaking the test and getting an A. So it's crazy. Yeah. All right. Let's see what we got here. Oh, dude. What is up, Sean? Thanks for being here, buddy. It's so good to see you in the chat. I'm trying to read all these messages, though. All right, Cody. Let's see. Where are we at? I came here to tell that story. I'm also going to ask for some insight because in spite of that success story, my work life is in a little spot right now. I'm a salesman in the midst of my worst run of luck in 10 years. Ironically, the two of you saying a lot of what I need to hear, though, unprompted. I appreciate y'all. Well, we appreciate you. Thank you so much for being here, Cody. Yeah, sales is a tough game. It's one of those feast or famine type things, and abundance is so important. The attitude is so important. I think, I hate to say it, but everybody's kind of in sales in some way or another. We have that terrible stigma about sales. But one of the things I've heard recently that I really liked, and this could really go for coordination more than even confidence, but confidence is not being optimistic in your ability, but optimistic in the midst of uncertainty. I would say that for coordination, probably even more than confidence. And there was one other thing. Abundance is not necessarily having what it is that you want, but knowing that you will. So they're kind of like, I don't know, kind of two little things that I recently heard in the past couple of weeks that stuck out in my mind. And I'm just kind of throwing those things out there. I don't know if they're helpful or not, but I don't know. Abby, do you have any words of sagely wisdom?
Oh, of course I do. First of all, because you said your life's pretty bad right now. You've got to remember that the world is a mirror of your relationship to it. So if you are focusing on the bad, then the mirror is going to reflect that. If you're focusing on want, like I want to sell, your reality is going to reflect that want. It's not going to reflect you selling the thing. So that's where, remember, we do not want, we do not hope, we intend. So it's different. It's different than having faith. It's different than any of those things. You really have to just see it and know it and do it. That's really what it is. It's not confidence. Yeah.
Dispassionately. And one of the things that's been hanging me up, and I'm sorry to cut you off, but
No.
I've
Perfect.
just been yanging everything so much. You know what I'm saying? It's so easy to do that where you're just like masculine and masculine, masculine, masculine. You're taking so much action, but you're not allowing the flow to the ebb. You know, it's like you have to take action, but also you have to allow things to come toward you. You know, if you try to pursue something, it's going to run from you because you're pursuing it. Why else? Why would it ever come to you? You're chasing it. It's going to run away. It's like a cat, you know, or anything. If you run at me, I hate running too. You know what I mean? Like I'm not trying to run,
You've
but
got to remember that nature balances itself. It's not whatever to spend the least amount of energy. So by putting in a ton of energy, you're not going to necessarily get what you want. The thing is if you think of everything like a triangle, okay, any action that you want to take, and this is actually from the Dream Hackers, but it's all related because Vadim, I'm pretty sure, is a dream hacker. So think of every intention that you have as a triangle, and there's 3 sides to a triangle, right? So there's always got to be 2 strong sides and 1 weak side. And this is the balance of nature, okay? So if you want your intention, that's got to be a strong side, right? The intention has to be strong. But you want your outcome to be strong, right? That's your intention is the outcome. So that's your strong side. So that's the visual part, that's running your slide. But the other 2 parts are action. There's intention, action, and result, pretty much. So you want the strong result. You don't have to, okay, you could do it without a strong intention, but you have to have 2 strong sides. So the action would have to be strong to get a strong result without a really clear intention. Because if you have a really strong intention, really strong action, then you're going to have a weak result. If you have, and this is seen in art. So like an artist might just see a whole bunch of scrap, not really have any intention for it, but then he just gets to action and he starts welding his metal together, and all of a sudden he has an awesome result, like a masterpiece. So there's that sort of way to get your desired result. But then the transurfing way is the intention. So start with a clear intention, then a weak action. It doesn't mean no action. It just means like you just act. It's not you just 1 foot in front of the other, just make an action, and then you get the result. So it's it's a really good way. It's a visual for me to remember how to navigate the balance of it all.
yeah, it's important. It's very Tao, right?
Yeah.
Like it's very Tao. There's a flow. There's 2 sort of oppositional forces, and that's what we're working with here with polarity. So things have to come to us. If you want to attract something, that's not the same as going after something, right? Like those are not the same things. You know, is there a Dream Hackers book that hell yeah. Yes, Penn Greedy. There are 2 of the Dream Hackers books, and I don't know if there's one. Do you have the
They're dream
recording?
searchers.
Yeah. I don't know.
I recorded, or I did chapter by chapter of, like, not every chapter is good, but I did it in the Telegram in the Dream Coven of book 2, not book 1. But yeah, they're called Dream Searchers by Andrei Roitov, I think.
That's right.
So the first one is Dream Searchers, Seekers of the Spirit, and I don't know what the second one is, but
I'll find them here.
they're excellent books. They're written as fiction, but they tell you that they're written by about real people and real incidents and everything. Like, they encourage you to try everything in the books. So we actually created a little dream experiment group where we read the books and we actually decoded some of the bigger practices in the books. It's pretty awesome. And then because of that group, I met a really cool friend, Arnis, and he turned me on to the actual Dream Hackers book, which is written in Lithuanian. So that one is it's not translated in English, but it's amazing too.
Can't really seem to find it. That's wild.
Dream Hackers?
I don't see it on. I usually have bought it or sent people links to Thrift Books or Abe Books, and I don't see it on here at all. I don't know. Maybe it's time to make a
Audiobook?
audiobook. I'm working on some other audiobooks and summaries too. Obviously, I can't be putting out something somebody else wrote, but like some of the older stuff, like the Kabbalion.
Yeah, stuff that's no longer.
Yeah, stuff that's in the public domain, but it's
Yeah.
really good. But it's like also kind of like the language is dated. So I'm trying to update it and just do summaries, because I'm like, if I could just listen to 35 minutes or 40 minutes on the Kabbalion on my way to work, I would pick that. And then I might also listen to the Kabbalion, but like, hey, let me save you some steps. That's kind of what I do. So I'm trying to make more of that kind of stuff. I think it's maybe helpful. I don't know. We'll see. I'll give it a shot. Chat GPT can translate the Lithuanian. Is that what?
Oh yeah, no, my friend. I need to actually translate the whole thing myself too. But my friend actually did. Arnett, he spent a lot of time translating it for me. He didn't do the entire thing, but he got pretty far.
It's pretty impressive. Yeah, the Dream Hackers book is really interesting. There is a lot of cool insight in there. There's a couple of chapters where they're just like dropping some hot downloads, and it's cool how it's framed, because it's kind of like a fiction story. It's kind of like a dream hack. It's like a Matrix type of story, but about dream hackers that can vanish and disappear out of thin air and stuff. It's pretty cool.
It's people who took. I'm gonna say it's Vadim Zeland and probably his buddies that he went to school with. Is who it's probably based on. That they were actually hired to learn about dreams and stuff. So they got really into the Carlos Castaneda stuff and were able to take it to another level because they were able to apply like computer hacking and stuff to it. So that's why they call themselves the Dream Hackers. Because the dream place is a lot like a computer system. And if you listen to any of the ways that we've described the alternative space, it really sounds like a computer program as well.
Well, I mean, as above, so below, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if we can make a computer and everything's fractals anyway, then it would kind of...
It makes sense.
Makes sense that would be a layer, or like I mean, yeah. As above, so below. It's crazy. And then so you see it. And so within that alternative space, anything that exists... I'm getting weird.
It is weird. So what?
Pings in my ear. Sorry. It's like, but yeah, anything that exists within that space, it's going to reflect what exists in this space, and on and on and on, right? Like, so it's all part of the same makeup.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's a really apt metaphor.
But the other thing he says is, like, nobody has the recipe for success. Like, don't listen to anybody tell you, like, this is the way to do it, because, they can give you insight or whatever, but nobody has the answer for you. It really comes down to pure intention and coordination of heart and mind, and you can do whatever you want to do.
I said this on a video not too long ago. I think it was one of my better videos. If, I can try to be objective about things like that, but the things that I've ever done that really ever connected were not what someone else told me to do. They were not something that I learned in a program. They were not a template of how to make X dollars a month by, booking sales calls or whatever, fill in the blank. The things that I've done that have connected have come from within me. And that is one thing that he talks about in this particular chapter is like, you can get hung up and read all this stuff, all
The
what this
mental
person
masturbation.
said.
Yeah.
And I've done it. I mean, I've done it for years. I mean, part of it's paying off because like I can make a summary, you know what I'm saying? Like I can whip up a summary pretty quick or synthesize some information and try to link some things together or serve that up for people. And so that's something I can do. So that's cool. So in that way it's usable, but it's also something that you can just get lost in learning all this stuff. And, I'm such a nerd. I can't help myself sometimes, but if you will just stop and just listen to you, then sometimes that's the best direction. And it doesn't mean that we can't learn like techniques and tricks from people and systems and like, oh, try this software or whatever, but when it really
But
that comes from
after a
you, it's like
while,
original, you know what I mean? Like there's something very special and unique about that.
yeah, because the thing is after a while, you can read psychology books, you can read the esoteric stuff, but it all overlaps. And that's like, you can start to see where you've pretty much learned what you need to learn. When you start seeing the overlaps, you don't need to pretty much gather anything from external sources anymore. That's when you really just need to rely on your soul and your heart. And what is it telling you? What's your intuition tell you? Because where you're going to learn more is from trusting that versus whatever is in the book. You're not going to find any more knowledge that you don't already know and that you don't have access to. So it's you channeling your higher self, and you're activating the part of you that can find whatever it needs in the space of alternatives. So
yeah, we want to internalize this knowledge, right? Like that was one big gripe that Einstein had, because I remember somebody telling this story about him taking his like nephew for sailing or something, and his nephew was in all these advanced physics classes, but he couldn't figure out how to sail the boat. It's like you can know physics, but you can also know all the rules in the book and how all these things work in a mental way, but not be able to put it into action, not be able to actually put the principles into play. So, it's easy to kind of get stuck in this world of learning principles and ideas and all that kind of stuff and noticing them. And that's cool. But like, until you get out there and you actually do experience and attempt these things, you don't really know, it's what is it? The school of hard knocks.
that's in The Alchemist. There's a English professor who wants to be an alchemist, and so he wants to go meet the alchemist so he can become an alchemist. But he's read all these books and he knows all about the Philosopher's Stone and the Emerald Tablets and all that, and he gets to finally meet the alchemist. The alchemist's like, dude, you're not ready yet. Like, you start doing this, apply what you learned, then you can come see me. Like, and it's funny because it doesn't matter. It's not going to come from a book. It's going to come from experiential knowledge, really, and trusting your intuition.
Yeah. And that's when it gets crazy too, because you'll start doing some shit that you never thought you would. And sometimes it's going to have some weird results.
That's the best part.
It is.
We like weird.
It is the best part. It's super fun.
Because your weird is your superpower.
Yeah, there you go. Your weird is your superpower. Authenticity, back to that. The idea of aligning those two poles of us, right? The soul and the mind, the heart and mind, right? Like that's what is bringing that attraction. So when you're talking about that intention triangle, having that strong intention, that's what is very attracting. It's like if we attract and push at the same time, or if we like have a hard intention and strong action, that's too much yang. It's too much yang energy, which is what I've said a bit ago that I've kind of struggled with, and hopefully this helps our new friend, Cody, to kind of relax, let go of control, shift to observer, play a little bit, and allow things to kind of come to you, maybe a little bit. For me, it's been very helpful in the current time, because I have the tendency as a masculine man to want to do this thing. And it's like, you can exhaust action. And especially if you have strong intention, you're just going to wear yourself out. It's just too much energy in that direction. And so you need the magnetism, you need both, so that it's coming to you and you're going toward it. So I like that intention triangle. I think it's there's some nuance to it, but
I made stickers and put them on my computer so I'd remember.
So smart. That's really smart. Yeah, because that's a really smart way to balance things, to let go and to take that dispassionate action.
I get it the other way around too, because I've had like days where I'm like, oh, I just want to, create a little graphic for outside my door that I could put in a frame, outside my office. And I had no idea what I was going to make. So I just sat down and started doing it. 4 hours later, I'm sitting there, I'm enjoying the process. I came up with the cutest little thing to put outside my office door that, was, if I would have sat and planned it out, it never would have looked good. I probably would have got frustrated and quit before I finished.
Yeah, that's interesting. I like the way you described it. It's really, really good. Really, really good.
Well, thank you. I'll take credit for it, even though it's not my own.
I just want to say to Sean too, man. Sean and I did an episode not too long ago about being imperturbable. Imperturbable, great word. And I think it's right along the lines of a lot of what we talk about with this particular model, the transurfing model, being neutral, finding balance, not being a slave to the pendulums, not being taken off course or off center by unexpected events, happenings. You're just dispassionately moving forward,
but also just laughter. And I think that that's one of the funniest things about this, is that they say laughter is the best medicine, and really it kind of is the solution to everything. I mean, I piss people off when I laugh a lot, and it's really just because I can see the absurdity of things. I'm not laughing at them, I'm not laughing at the situation. It's just like, I don't know, I can't help but do it now. So it's hard, because there is a fine line between when it's appropriate and when it's not. But it's like, because he actually talks about that when they're sitting there in their physics classes and they're getting lectured and everything, and they would sit there and mess with these principles, and they would just start kind of like trying not to laugh at the teacher, because they got so good at finding laughter at non-funny things, that they would all start like like grunting and snorting, and like they were trying not to laugh. But it's like, you can turn a polarizing situation around so fast with just being able to laugh at it.
I mean, dude, it's so funny.
But if the other person is really polarized, you're probably going to piss them off more. But
right,
then you might find it more funny too. So,
well, I liked his point about being in a group for that too, because as somebody who has to try to do that by himself a lot, it is really hard to do it by yourself. But that's what hermetic alchemy is. Like, that's really, back to the idea of the Kabbalion, that's really what it's about, like transmuting, and taking.
I feel like Cheney and I do that a lot. We sit there and laugh at each other on live streams. And they're like, we can't stop.
No, it's fun. Like the funniest, the times when it's funny is when you can't laugh,
Yeah,
like
it's the best.
When your dad's mad and he's driving, but y'all are just
and he's like huffing out his nose. You're like,
so mad, Like, I had a friend who was so funny, and we were trying to go to sleep one night, and he was laying on the floor and I was on the bed, and every once in a while his hand would pop up with a sock in it and just start looking around, just like, and we're trying to go to sleep, we're going to get in so much trouble but having to suppress that laughter, it just made it all the more funny, you know. That's
Okay,
why.
did you understand what he was talking about with making a fool?
What do you mean?
Like in this chapter, he talks about, because somebody wrote in a letter about he's so serious and everybody, he likes his life structured and everybody
Oh yeah,
around
yeah.
him just seems to be like loafing and like, just
Right.
doesn't take anything serious and it frustrates him. And so he's like, I'm getting pulled by pendulums all the time. And Vadim's like, everyone gets
Yeah,
pulled by
no shit.
pendulums all the time. That's nothing
Right.
new. Like everyone, it happens to everyone.
Right.
It's your reaction. And he talks about creating a fool.
Yeah, he talks
Like
about creating a folder, a graph, and a spreadsheet, because this dude's so regimented that he's literally taking it to the extreme. He's trolling him. He's like, "Oh, here's what you need to do because you're so regimented. You need to make sure that everything, and you write this certain way and you do it like this, and make sure that you put it in a folder and then put it here, and then make sure that you don't laugh." Keep a straight face. If you start to laugh, take a break and come back to it because this is very serious business. He's basically being like that. He's trolling him and saying,
oh, okay. Because he says
"You
something about a
are
teddy
so."
bear too,
Yeah,
or
yeah,
something
yeah,
like
yeah.
that.
Yeah,
So I was like, okay. So he was actually being very much a smart ass. That's really funny.
yeah,
Okay.
he was trolling him. Yeah,
Good to know.
I love that. The bite-sized Kabbalion. Yeah, dude, that's exactly what I'm making. I love that. Oh man, that's great. No, yeah, he was trolling him. He's like, because you're such a regimented person and you have to have things just ever so. He's like making it so absurdly ridiculous, all the demands that he has to go through to prove a point to this guy, to just let that go, man. And those are the pendulums that are pulling on him. Right. But he's like, yeah, duh. Pendulums pull on all of us, dude. They're out there. It's a real thing.
Well, and I think this is important to talk about too, is that people get so stuck on like, I'm on a negative lifeline. Like, what if I'm on a negative lifeline? And the truth of it is every lifeline is positive, potentially even every negative thing that happens to you is a positive. So you have to find the way to flip that around in your head and in your thinking, because that bad thing that happened, your wife leaving you, whatever, that was probably saving you a lot of grief down the road. It seems like the end of your world now, but looking back, you will know that it was actually a really good thing for you.
Yeah.
So you have to be mentally stronger than that, than like, oh, my life is shit, all this negative stuff's happening, I'm on a negative life track. No, you're not. You control that. You control your future. Like, you control everything that happens. Like, it is all your mindset. So reality is a mirror. So if you think that, then you're gonna reflect that. But if you can see that there is, like, that's where we go back to the finding the one little potential positive thread in every negative situation, because eventually you'll see that it was actually a very big positive.
Yeah. I mean, suffering makes us stronger at the very least, and I've learned this myself. And there used to be this person that I knew in my life, and, we both knew about some of this stuff, and I don't know, something would happen. She'd get turned around and lose her way and have to turn off the interstate to go such a way. And she'd say, "Oh, well, that's great. I just saved myself from some, thing happening, and this is better." And then, this would happen time and again, right? And then, so it would happen again. And then she would say, "Yeah, I tell myself that all the time," as if to disqualify her telling herself that all the time. But it's like, but you tell yourself that all the time. So that is the way that it is. So just go with that instead of disqualifying it by saying, if it happens all the time and that's the way that it is, then that makes it more the way that it is, not less. You see what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
you should be emphasizing, because it happens that certain way means that that's why it happens, not because it happens that certain way. Why? So it can't happen like that anymore. That's the opposite of what the book says. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. Maybe I'm being a little bit cryptic with that, but it's just weird. What we tell ourselves about reality is what we see in reality. So if we tell ourselves something about reality, it can't mean that it must be the opposite because we told ourselves about it. In fact, it's just that.
And it reflects quickly sometimes. You know, there is a delay, but just like just like the downward spiral starting the other day was starting with the bee sting and then getting a cold shower on my head. Like, it would have escalated quickly, but I laughed and it stopped. So it's your relationship to the mirror, your relationship to the whatever you think is what you're gonna get.
Yeah,
And that's why fear is so powerful, because the more you allow yourself to imagine the things that you fear more than you allow yourself probably to imagine the things that you wish to create in reality. So you sit there and worry. Worry is such a big thing. Guilt is such a big thing. Anxiety, fear. And so allowing yourself to do that is really just you're creating your own worst nightmare.
Yep. You are informing it. We have the ability to tell ourselves the story about the events that happen in our lives. This is, I mean, that's straight out of Robert Anton Wilson too, right? Like, who is the master who makes the grass green? You know, the grass isn't green. It's a reflection of light. We make the grass green. The theory that if you burn your toast in the morning, this is burnt toast theory, or something challenging happens, the time you spend making another piece of toast could have saved you from something bad. Yeah, like that idea, like missing a turn or whatever, you know, burnt toast.
I believe it.
Burnt toast theory. I like it. I do it all the time. And I think it's like, oh, I forgot something. I have to turn around and come back to the house to grab something. And I mean, it's a good thing. And learning to celebrate the quote unquote negative things is like you accidentally turning the shower on. It's like, now it's actually now it's a moment to remember, hey, this is a play. I'm having fun. This is funny.
Yeah. My foot hurts, but you know, we're gonna be all right.
yeah. I got stung by a wasp, so that sucks. But like,
I'm trying hard to laugh right now, but I'm doing
funny.
it. So yeah,
you know?
I could see the comedy.
Well, the further what they say about comedy is tragedy plus time. So it's like the further distance away from it that you are, back to like the idea of the observer, like the more you can see the comedy. So the more, you know, it's the more you're removed. It's a benign violation. That's the comedy theory. So it's like a violation of something that doesn't hurt, right? Like, so the time keeps it from being painful. In the moment, it's rough, but once we move away from it, if we can distance ourselves and make ourselves more of an observer, then we can see the humor in it more easily.
So the burnt toast theory, that's funny too, because Russians, I guess, if they leave something at home, they believe it's bad luck to turn around and go back into your house and grab it. So most of them won't. But Vadim is like, nah, that really is like probably your guardian angel saving you from a car accident or something like that. So yeah, make new toast, man.
It's just
okay.
Toast. Yeah, it's fucking toast, man. Who cares?
It's 2 minutes.
It's not a big deal. But yeah, we try to remember. That's why we read this book so many fucking times. You know what I mean? Like, God. The reason why I made the audiobook was for me. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm like, I got to remember this shit. So I'm going to force myself to read it and edit it so that I can listen to it and hopefully embed these principles into my psyche. Because like I said, we want to internalize this stuff. This is the way, man. I'm just going to say it, you know, and it's the way for the light side or the dark side. Doesn't matter. This is natural law. Use it how you will. It's up to you. I mean, I don't advocate doing negative, terrible shit. Obviously, please don't do that. But I can't really stop anybody from doing anything either.
And that's the thing, is that you affect your layer of the world. So, because one of the people wrote in and said, you know, can we make Russia a better place, you know, for everyone? And he's like, why would you even want to do that? Like, how do you know that they're not happy? Like, but by doing that, you're living off a sense of duty, and duty is an obligation, and obligation is guilt.
Comes from guilt.
So you're not coming from a good place at all anyway.
Yeah.
So
Guilt and fear.
yeah, those are super low vibrations, and that's not going to help anything. So you help the bigger picture by changing your little bubble, your reality, what you can affect. And what you can affect is your life and
Yep.
and the people around you, you know, because she did ask about her family healing her kids from mental illness. And he said, yeah, you can. With pure intention, you can do pretty much anything. You can heal your kids, but it's can't come from a place of faith, and it can't come from any other, you know. But then again, he said mentally ill people really aren't mentally ill. They just are tuning into things that we can't see.
Yeah, their awareness is, they're aware of different sectors in the alternative space, right? Than
Yeah.
the consensus reality. And that makes so much sense. Like when I read that, I was like, oh, damn. Like, because my grandmother had Alzheimer's. And honestly, man, like she would say some profound shit, you know, even with that sometimes. And I was like, what is going on? Like, is she just in a different, like, you know, set of reality kind of thing, like a different, and I think that's kind of, maybe, at least it's a simple explanation maybe, but it helped me kind of with it, you know, because it
Well,
was tough, man.
I've heard that like schizophrenics in like a mental hospital will all have the same psychoses sometimes. And that's telling you something right there. Like that's not normal. That they're all seeing the same things and experiencing the same things, that they're seeing a different layer of reality.
Yeah, it makes complete sense.
And the funny thing is that with Alzheimer's too, yeah, I think that they might sometimes even be in the past, because I took care of my father-in-law and he was telling me stories third person, though. It was kind of weird. Like he talked about himself third person, but he was telling me stories that none of his kids or anybody had ever heard before. It's like he could tune in. He was so tuned in to that time, but almost like an observer. It was interesting.
Wild. Yeah. No, that's how my grandmother was too at times. Like it was weird. It was like she was reliving stuff, or like in a different time. And honestly, from a creative standpoint, I was thinking about this the other day. I'm like, what's more powerful, drugs or mental illness? And it's like all the people that I'd say mental illness in a landslide, like Daniel Johnston, like one of the most incredible songwriters of all time, you know, like so many people who are just by society standards off, you know, mentally ill. And some of them live, you know, terribly tragic and sad lives, unfortunately. Like I hate that. But they're somehow tapped into something that most of us are not. And that's what makes their art so good. You know, it's just so unique and different. And it's a beautiful thing.
Well, that's also, you know, where this drug that is harvested from a certain gland that's on top of your kidneys that we're not really supposed to talk about.
Well, that's
I
not.
won't say the word. Yeah, I'm not going to. That's why I'm not saying the word. I'm just saying that originally came from schizophrenic patients. Like people were having like full on experiences from that.
That's crazy. Yeah, I mean, the world of all that, like there's no telling what all is going on there.
I'm gonna plug Paranoid American there though, because he
Yeah, he's
did the
amazing.
full on research. It's
He's amazing. He's
He's got all the resources. Yeah.
Yeah. Styrena from I don't know. Like that's what I think. Something that rhymes with it, but I don't. But yeah, he has done an amazing job. I strongly recommend checking out his work if you're interested in that. It's fascinating, and I mean, he's got a ton of just crazy historical knowledge. Like he's a very, very well educated historian, like
Yeah.
across the board, especially about the esoteric stuff, the Masons and all that. It's wild. Some of the stuff.
So
he does.
researched. Yeah. Like I would, he's like modern day John D. He buys like the one copy that you can't find.
Yeah, yeah. It's impressive. Yeah, I love
Yeah.
his work. He's awesome. Awesome dude. Awesome. And a super nice guy too.
Yep.
But yeah, there's some pretty fascinating stuff with that. But I don't think, I'll say the getting access to the alternative. We do things in our dreams every single night that's crazier than any drug on the face of the planet. And he says
Period.
that in
Yep.
chapter 5, I think, or 6, maybe. When he starts
I
talking
think that's
about
why I
dreams.
like dreaming so much. It's a high.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing.
I
It's
mean,
very, very
petting a
cool.
dragon, who gets to do that?
Flying around,
Yeah.
walking through walls, breathing underwater,
All the things.
sex.
Yeah.
I mean, all the things, right? Like,
Yes.
it's fun. It's a good time in there. And yeah, it's a great way to practice intention, as we've talked about as well. And I need to get better on dreaming myself. And I have actually. I've definitely improved and developed over the past year or two since we started the coven. It's made me a lot more mindful of it. Haven't had a lucid dream in a while, but
I've been writing my dreams down way more than I was. Like, I was really lazy, but yeah, I've been very intentional about it. So I'm not mapping like I should be, but
well, no guilt, duty, or obligation. Okay.
no,
We're
I'm
kicking
doing
those right out
something.
the front door. We're celebrating action and we're allowing results to come, right? Like, take action. Don't worry about it. Allow the results to come. Don't over yang it. It's so easy to over yang it. It's hard to get the balance right anyway, because it's easy to over yin it too. Like,
Because that's what most of our failures come from importance in relationships, in everything. It's from importance, and it's like the more you stress it, the more you push it away from you.
Do you want to touch on relationships before we close this out? Because he does mention that in the Q&A.
He does. There was a couple people that were, one guy was like, "Oh, my wife left me because I'm not ambitious enough," more or less is what he was saying. But Vadim goes in and goes, "If she left you over that, like, then she doesn't love you. And if somebody doesn't love you, then they're not for you, and you're never gonna win them back. Like, period." So he's like, it has nothing to do with how much money you're making and all of that. That's an important thing to realize. If somebody doesn't love you, you're never going to make somebody love you.
Right.
But he does talk about frailing, though. And
Right.
it's a matter of waking up if you're provoked and you're fighting and stuff. Because they talk about sometimes, like, when I'm ready to leave, then all of a sudden things are good. Like,
Right.
but that's the balancing force of it, right? So
Right,
if
right,
you're
right.
pissed off and you're ready to leave, and then all of a sudden things get good and it's good for a while, it's nature balancing itself. So the trick is to keep your attention especially when you're provoked. Like, don't get provoked at the little things. Like, they're not washing the dishes, they're not doing that. That's fine. You do it, and make a comedy of it. It's a play. It's a game. So if you let those little things bug you, even at work, like, it's just going to bug you more. That's the nature of the pendulum. It's like, oh, she doesn't want to be bugged by this. Okay, let's do it. Like, this is going to lose her. So it's with people too. People that you love will do the same thing. So the qualities that annoy you, you're going to see way more of it. Reality is a mirror. So I don't like this thing, so I don't want to see it. But I'm not intending to fix that. I'm just talking about how I don't like it and I don't want it. And so, but it doesn't matter. That's what I'm going to see. I'm going to see that I don't want it. It's going to keep happening. So reducing importance always. It's like, it's a fine line, because it's not caring. It's just
Right.
not caring in abundance, I guess. It's like, I realize that sounds like the antithesis of love, but it's not, because if you remember, love is not possession. It's
Right.
totally different.
Love is giving.
Yeah.
And really what he's talking about with this, there's a couple things here I think that are important to note. One is the way that polarization works. Homegirl Teal Swan does a really good analysis of kind of how different people's flaws and their shadows kind of attract them together. And Vadim mentions that a little bit. But for people who are in a relationship, for it not to be transactional, you want to focus on the other person's inner intention. If both people are focusing on the inner intention of the other, then outer intention is created as a result of that.
Frailing.
It is. It's frailing, right? In the relationship. Where it gets kind of confusing is like people don't always tell you what their inner intention is.
Yeah, it's
Kinda
trying to figure that out.
Yeah. So, but
Fucking
that's
guessing game.
But that is masculinity and femininity, right? Like if you can start to learn the Tao stuff, the masculinity and femininity, then you can. Well, I guess both people kind of need to learn that, but if people can be a little bit more aware of that, then it's a lot easier to do that. Right.
And that's what he says, that only one person really has to know it, though. If one person knows it and gets the reality transurfing of it all, then that's enough to save a relationship. Even if you're totally two different people, the opposites attract, and, but we have nothing in common, but really like you had something in common. Like,
right.
And those relationships can work, but
toxic as fuck.
Yeah.
That's what you got.
That's what we have in common.
No, I'm
crazy.
Yeah, y'all both crazy, but yeah, I mean, that's a whole thing too. I mean, but I didn't want to get too deep into it, but just to say, like, yeah, like when, and you can look at it in really any light, any type of relationship doesn't necessarily, this does not romantic specific, and romantic relationships, frankly, are way more complicated. But, any type of relationship, business, friendship, whatever, focusing on the other person's inner intention, they're focusing on your inner intention, that creates outer intention, right? Like that's win, win, win. So it's one way to think about it. And yeah, love is not possessive, it's giving. You can love without placing limits on someone. As soon as you place limits on someone, as soon as you put conditionality on someone else, that's not love anymore. That's something different. That is a demand. That is a request. That is an ultimatum. That is something that is not unconditional love, because unconditional love allows whatever it is to be just as it is. And if that thing doesn't want to be around you or a person or whatever, then that's okay too, right? You just have to love it from a distance. And that's just that's what love is.
Love.
Welcome to it. Unrequited, I think it's
unrequited.
I don't know. Maybe it is unrequited. I honestly don't know. I've never experienced it, so
I learned it in a book. So
no, I don't know how to pronounce it. But yeah. I think that's pretty much.
Jen in the chat said, just taking off the pressure from my husband to be who I wanted helped him relax and be more of who he is and happier. And that's, in the words of Cheney, there are no rules. Shoot, like.
Well, I mean, he even says it in this chapter. He's like, what transurfing is really individualism, with in operation with pendulums. It's figuring out balancing those. And to be true, like when we do increase the enjoyment in our own world, it affects other people in our world positively as well, right? When we let go and allow, like people feel more free, there's a lot of really positive consequences that can come from that. And that's just allowing. It's very simple. It's very yin. It's non-action, right? Like you're talking about like the intention triangle, like that's, but that is something that you have to be aware of, right? And like cultivate, like allow the person, you have to hold your emotional and just allow, right? Like that's what needs to happen in that particular moment. Sometimes you got to take action too. I mean, that's just definitely part of it. And that's beautiful. So happy to hear that, Jen. That's gorgeous. In turn, they're more in love than they have. So that's beautiful. Period. Congratulations for that. I love it. Yeah. I like to hear that kind of stuff. It makes me very happy. And much love to everybody here. Britney Pickle
Remember
Spears.
that reality is what you expect it to be.
Yeah. Yeah. And if things aren't quite what you want right now, that's all right. You can work on it, work on that paradigm. Another great book is The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And that's what he's talking about in the very first chapter of that, our paradigm. And our paradigm is that which we broadcast to the world. The world reflects back to us. The world is a mirror, and it will reflect our attitude towards it. Vadim says the same thing in this book that every other esoteric book says, pretty much. It's not any different, but the language and the vernacular is a little bit more specific. And there's a lot of insights and nuanced points in this book that, frankly, are just kind of missing in other models. But yeah, I'm excited. I want to thank everybody for being here. I've got some new friends in the chat. Really appreciate y'all for being here. Thanks, Ashley, Pin Greedy, Kelly, Cody, Cheney, Sean, Brittany Pickle Spears. I just love you. I just love your name, everything about you. PK, thanks for being here. And let's see who else. We got Kevin and Jamie, Jen, and Emma. Thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate y'all. Dissident Jones, hell yeah, homie. Thanks for coming out and hanging with us a little bit. Really appreciate you all. Much, much love, and have a wonderful, wonderful night. I think it's going to wrap it for here. Anything to shout out, Abby? What's up? Let people know what you got going on.
Watch us on Secret Society of Good Guys on Friday nights and Sundays.
Killing it on the Secret Society of Good Guys. Definitely check that out. I got links to Abby's channel too. Please subscribe to that in the description here. And we got another episode next week, so please come for that. It's going to be a wild one, man. It gets crazy after this. Dances with Shadows is the next chapter, and it is a lot of polarity, which is cool. A lot of polarization and understanding, that kind of stuff. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Come check it out. Thanks for being here. Yeah. Thanks so much for sharing. Thanks for watching the channel. Thanks for everything you've ever done. Oh, I'm going to be putting out a new video on Thursday, and I'll go ahead and put this link in the live stream chat. And if you're listening to this on the podcast, you can go ahead and go to my website. I made a little guide to reduce importance. So whatever it is that you're trying to do, you can go through that guide, and it's basically like a little, troubleshooting kind of guide to help reduce the importance around that. That seems to be one of the biggest sticking points in reality transurfing, is reducing importance. So I made a 5-step guide to kind of go through, and whatever your goal is, you can kind of test it and go through all the little 5 steps that's in the book. And it's very short and simple and to the point. Check that out. It's up now for free on my store. I don't think I'll keep it for free for forever. But it is free for now. It's free for everybody. And when I put up the video next week or later this week, it'll still be free. But once I publish it, I'll probably ask some cash for it. But in the moment, I want to say thanks. Please hook it up, grab it, see if it's helpful. If it is, great. Share it around, all that stuff. I'm trying to be create things that are helpful. I want to help people in any possible way. And I wrote the little thing a while ago, actually, and kind of forgot about it. And then I went through and found it in there while I was working on this summary. So hopefully these summaries hit. That'd be dope. Thank you guys so much, everybody who's downloaded the summary of Transurfing. It's doing pretty well on Spotify, so thank you for that. And if you can share any of that kind of stuff, it's great. It helps me. It really helps. It's awesome. And I appreciate it. If there's also any ideas that you think would be good, we can try, shoot it my way. Reach out. I'm doing coaching sessions. You're doing coaching sessions, right, Abby?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So
life coaching and lifestyle fitness coaching.
All right. Very cool. Yep. I'm more strategy. If you're trying to work on a goal, I like to help you dial that goal in. And we can do that in an hour. In fact, when I used to do discovery calls, I'd be like, hey, let me tell you about my program. And then the first hour, we'd work through everything and they'd be like, all right, well, thanks. So I'm by the hour now. That's how that works. I'm not hopping on the call to try to sell anything. I'm just going to go ahead and just be as forthcoming and hopefully as helpful as possible. I'm very fortunate to have some of the weird, obscure skills that I have learned through production and stuff. And I've learned a lot about some of the new tools too, and softwares and stuff that are out there. So anyway, looking forward to hanging out, and I just want to give more if I can, right? Like it's, that's the whole point. I want to inspire and share as much as I possibly can. I love y'all. Thank you so much for being here. Y'all rock. Thank you for being here. Thanks for all the stuff. I'll stop buttering you up now, and we'll see y'all next week. We'll see y'all Friday night on the Secret Societies of Good Guys chat. And until then.
Yeah.
Woo.
See ya.